well, what about Shepard? She grew up in the colonies.
She knows how tough life can be out there. Her parents were killed when slavers attacked Mindwar.
She got most of her unit killed on Torfin.
She gets the job done, no matter what the cost.
Is that the kind of person we want protecting the galaxy?
That's the only kind of person who can protect the galaxy.
I'll make the call.
Arcturus Prime relays in range. Initiating transmission sequence.
Commander.
We are connected. Calculating transit mass and destination. The relay is hot. Acquiring approach vector. All stations secure for transit. Screen. Approach run has begun. Hitting the relay in 3, 2, 1. Thrusters, check. Navigation, check. Internal emissions sync engaged. All systems online. Drift, just under 1500K.
1500 is good. Your captain will be pleased.
I hate that guy.
Nihilus gave you a compliment, so you hate him.
You remember to zip up your jumpsuit on the way out of the bathroom? That's good. I just jumped us halfway across the galaxy and hit a target the size of a pinhead, so that's incredible. Besides, Spectres are trouble. I don't like having them on board. Call me paranoid.
You're paranoid. The Council helped fund this project. They have a right to send someone to keep an eye on their investment.
Yeah, that is the official story. But only an idiot believes the official story.
That's enough. Your soldiers act like it.
Sorry, Commander.
Joker, status report.
Just cleared the mass relay, Captain. Stealth systems engaged. Everything looks solid.
Good. Find a comm buoy and link us into the network. I want mission reports relayed back to Alliance brass before we reach Eden Prime.
Aye, aye, Captain. Better brace yourself, sir. I think Nihilus is headed your way.
He's already here, Lieutenant. Tell Commander Shepard to meet me in the comm room for a debriefing.
You get that, Commander?
I'm on my way.
Is it me or does the Captain always sound a little pissed off?
Only when he's talking to you, Joker.
Hello, welcome to another playthrough of Mass Effect, this time starring Carmen Shepard. This is going to be my canon Shepard. The one I think this will probably be my last playthrough of Mass Effect. And this one, I think, is motivated by the idea, who is Shepard? And my thinking, it revolves around the DLC Arrival. And during that DLC, of course, you have to kill 300,000 Batarians. You don't have any choice on that if you want to complete the DLC. You actually don't have to kill them. You can wait for the timer to expire, and then the Reapers win. But, and it's game over. But if you don't want that, if you want to complete the DLC and move on to Mass Effect 3, or whatever parts of Mass Effect 2 you haven't completed, then you have to kill 300,000 Batarians, and that seems like a fairly ruthless act. And that idea of a ruthless act being what's needed to defeat the Reapers comes up again in Mass Effect 3. You get a conversation with Garrus right after the mission on Thessia, where Garrus talks about the well, actually, I think that conversation comes earlier, but at some point, Garrus talks about the ruthless calculus of war, letting 1 billion people here die so that 10 billion people over here can live. And a Shepard that says, oh, there's got to be a better way, it can't be a Shepard that sacrificed 300,000 Batarian lives in order to buy the galaxy just 6 more months before the Reapers made it to the next relay. So that kind of points to Shepard having a ruthless background. Someone who's willing to make the hard choices and basically say, what is the greater good? This act may be bad in and of itself, but if it accomplishes something even greater, then that is something we'll have to do. So it seems to me that a ruthless Shepard can account for pushing that button and restarting the project and sending that asteroid crashing into a mass relay and snuffing out 300,000 Batarian lives. The ruthless background can also work for explaining why Shepard works for Cerberus in Mass Effect 2. Cerberus is a human-centric organization. It's known as a terrorist organization. But most importantly, the thing they want to convey about Cerberus is the ends justify the means. Now, you can have Shepard say, I'll never work for Cerberus in the opening scene in the conversation with Wilson and Jacob. But even if you say, I'll never work for Cerberus, 20 minutes later, Shepard's going to be working for Cerberus no matter what. So why try to say, I'll never work for Cerberus? Why would Shepard work for Cerberus? Well, maybe Shepard is that kind of the ends justify the means kind of Shepard. And that, again, fits this idea of a ruthless background. Shepard gets the job done. And so that's the background I've picked for my Shepard. And there's also, I will say, I'm not going to say exactly how this is going to play out, but there are certain parts of the story that are considered renegade, and a lot of people may not like to do those parts of the story, but I think if you do them, you find that the drama involved, the feelings, it just makes the story better rather than everything being hunky-dory, happy-go-lucky. That adds some sacrifice, some loss, some high drama to the story, and that fits well with Shepard, my idea of Shepard as well. So we're going with the ruthless background, and one of the things you get from the ruthless background is, and I'm not sure who brings this up, I think it might be Emily Wong who brings this up, but somebody brings up the idea that Shepard actually shot Batarians who were surrendering during the raid on Torfin. And you could play that out various different ways. I suppose you could say, well, that didn't really happen, it's just a rumor, or there were extenuating circumstances. But in this case, I think the way to explain that is I'm going to give Shepard a colonist background. And of course, in the colonist background, the story is that when she was 16, slavers invaded the colony she was living on, Mindwar, and her entire family was killed during that raid where they came in looking to capture people as slaves. And that's what really turned her against Batarians. I mean, she just loathes Batarians, and these Batarians that were trying to surrender, she didn't care. She just mowed them down. Being a colonist also helps explain working for Cerberus. The Council and the Alliance are doing nothing. They do nothing at all to stop the collector raids against these human colonies out in the Terma systems. And Shepard, with this colonist background herself, will have more of a sense of, I want to do something for those colonists. Cerberus is the only organization really out there willing to do anything. The Alliance and the Council are both sitting on their hands and not helping out. So I don't really have a problem with Cerberus's ideas of being the ends justify the means. And I think she's also going to be rather, you know, you could play this as a Shepard who's like, you know, kumbaya, let's all, in the future everybody will be just like hunky-dory and everybody will just get along. But I don't think that's terribly realistic. I think that humans, if we do encounter aliens, when we do, if we do, who knows if we will, there's the Fermi paradox, of course. But if we were to ever encounter aliens, I don't think everything would be kumbaya and everybody gets along instantly. I think there would be problems, and this Shepard is going to be rather somewhat anti-alien. I say somewhat. I'll get into explaining that in a bit, why, but I think it makes more sense for Shepard to be somewhat distrustful of aliens, especially if she's going to be working for this pro-human organization, Cerberus. So that makes her fit in better with Cerberus, is a more pro-human tilt where we need to look out for ourselves. We can't really rely on the Council. We can't rely on these aliens. That humans need to look out for themselves. But that does bring up a thing. So this Shepard's going to be somewhat distrustful of aliens, hate Batarians, but problem is romance options. FemShep kind of got screwed in the romance department. In Mass Effect 1, of course, FemShep can romance either Kaidan or Liara. For either Shepard, romancing either Kaidan or Ashley, well, that's a violation of rules against fraternization. And so how military is your Shepard? And this Shepard is rather military. You saw she just told these guys, cut the chatter, your soldiers act like it. She's rather military. Another problem with romancing either Ashley or Kaidan is that when you meet them again on Horizon in Mass Effect 2, they just dump all over you, which is like, oh, jeez. That kind of makes, a sour note on the whole relationship. So then what are you left with? Well, you still have Liara. And in Mass Effect 2, for FemShep, you've got Thane, you've got Garrus, you've got Jacob, and I think that's it. Well, I mean, I'm not going to count Kelly. Kelly doesn't really count. And it's like, well, Thane's going to die in Mass Effect 3 right away. I mean, halfway through he dies. Jacob takes off with another woman. And also, it's a pretty bad romance. I mean, Shepard just throws herself at Jacob. It's just, oh my goodness. And Garrus is, I don't know, it's a bridge too far for me. No, it's just way too alien. Even Thane doing Thane's romance was a little bit too much, but I managed to go through a Thane romance once. And then what do you have in Mass Effect 3? I guess you have Samantha Trainer, and Liara, and Caden, and I think that's it. I mean, you can flirt with James, and you can have a one-night stand with him in the Citadel DLC, but that's not really a romance. And so FemShip's kind of screwed. If I was going to do a male Shepard, I think for a canon Shepard, I would think I'd be single in Mass Effect 1 and go with Miranda in Mass Effect 2. I think that's what I would do, but I prefer playing FemShep just because I like Jennifer Hale's acting better. And if this is going to be my last playthrough, I don't know if it is, but if it is, I'd rather just have Jennifer Hale voicing my Shepard. So we have to consider what the FemShep possibilities are, and that leaves either being single all throughout this trilogy, being single through Mass Effect 1 and 2 and going with Trainer in Mass Effect 3, or going with Liara, who you can romance in 1, stays faithful to you in 2. You have a very nice reunion in Mass Effect 2 with Lara the Shadow Broker. That's very nice. And then it continues right on through Mass Effect 3. Although the lock-in scene in Mass Effect 3 is pretty bad. It's like almost like Liara and Shepard had never been together. Unlike with Tali, you have a nice smooth transition from Mass Effect 2 into 3. With Liara, it's pretty smooth except for the lock-in scene. But here we have, if I'm going to go with Liara, which I am, I already said that this Shepard would be somewhat anti-alien, distrustful of aliens. Well, why would she hook up with this alien then? And let's get back to her background then. She grew up on Minwar, which is a human colony, but that doesn't mean that it was just humans. There were actually, it was a small colony, only about 20 to 30,000 people living there. It was mostly agriculture there, but you know, even to support an agricultural community, they needed tech support. They needed all kinds of infrastructure to support all of those colonists, and the Alliance didn't have everything they needed, so they went to outside races to help them with their colony. They hired a number of Solarians, a small number of Solarians to help with technical expertise on various different machinery and equipment and computers and things like that. So there were a small number of Solarians living in that community. And in particular, they also hired, of interest to Carmen here, they hired an Asari who was married to another Asari, and they had a child named Solana. And Solana was about 20 years old when she moved to the colony, and Asari mature much more slowly than humans, and so they lived right. This Asari family, mother, father, and daughter, lived right next door to Carmen. Her father was a technical expert. Her father was not a farmer. Her father was a technical expert, and so was her mother. So they didn't live out on a farm. They lived in the village there on Mindoir, and worked on technical stuff. But her family and the Asari family grew up right next to each other. And so Carmen, from a very young age, met up with this Asari, Solana, and they became best friends. And of course, Solana, with both an Asari mother and father, was a pureblood, and she knew about the discrimination that purebloods faced, and she tried to convey to Shepard the evils of discrimination, of bigotry, and things like that. And until the raid, when Shepard was 16, Shepard was terribly idealistic about we should all get along, we should all be friends, and things like that. She'd never met any Turians. She'd met some Solarians that worked there in the colony, and of course her best friend was Solana, this is Asari. But that was pretty much the limit of her exposure to aliens up until that time. But that idealism that Solana tried to instill in her from her own background of being discriminated against as a pureblood was crushed by the slaver raid on her colony, where not only her family died, both her mom and her daddy died, but also Solana died as well, and Solana's family died as well. And that just crushed her and gave her this burning hatred of Batarians. So she grew up not really seeing Asari as alien. That was how she grew up. Her best friend, they planned to run off together at some point. They dreamed of, maybe becoming pilots in a navy together, or joining together in some mercenary group, but basically spending the rest of their lives together. I mean, these guys were best friends for life. And then Solana was killed, leaving Shepard to hate Batarians and come to even question a lot of what Solana said about whether she should trust other aliens or not. So when she turned 18, first opportunity she got, she joined the Alliance. And she didn't join out of some patriotism or gratitude for the Alliance coming in and trying to rescue the colonists and stop this abduction. She joined because she wanted to stop any further attacks on colonies like she had experienced, and because she wanted to get back at the people who had done this. She wanted to be a sword in defense of humanity. That's who she is. So it also makes it, more logical why she would be willing to shoot down surrendering Batarians, why she might find it easier to go ahead and push that button and restart the project to wipe out, I think it's called the Viper system. I can't remember exactly what the system is called. The planet's called Eratot. Oh, it's called the Bahak system. That's right, it's the Bahak system. Anyway, why she would wipe out the Bahak system. And it can also explain why she works for Cerberus, is that she really sees Cerberus as this organization that is going to look out for the needs of humans. But she's not going to be totally anti-alien. She's going to hate Batarians. She's going to be distrustful of Turians. She's not really going to have much of a problem with Solarians. And she's going to actually not even see Asari as alien. I mean, she's not even going to see them that way. That's just not the way she's going to see them. And so she's going to end up in a romance with Liara. So that's more or less who our Shepard is going to be. Is somebody who's fairly mission-focused, and somebody who is distrustful of aliens and hates Batarians in particular, but doesn't really see Asari as aliens, doesn't really have too much of a problem with Solarians is distrustful of Turians and Krogan and other aliens, however. And will not have much of a... And I would say offhand, she views the Alliance as an end, as a means to an end. She doesn't view the Alliance as an end in itself. And so she's not going to really have too much of a problem breaking with the Alliance. I mean, the Alliance won't do anything about the colonies, and Cerberus will. Fine, I'll go work for Cerberus. So she's not going to be totally 100%, you know, like an Alliance cheerleader. So that's who our Shepard is. Now let's talk about this playthrough a little bit. First off, I do not talk over NPCs' dialogue. For one thing, I can't even think when NPCs are talking. I mean, I just can't even think. So I do not talk over NPCs' dialogue. As far as the missions we're going to do here in Mass Effect 1 and 2 and 3 as well, but particularly in 1, I am only going to do missions that contribute to the story. I actually don't particularly like the gameplay in Mass Effect 1. I do like the gameplay in Mass Effect 2 and 3, and I have picked as a class for Shepard here in Mass Effect 1, which will carry over to Mass Effect 2. I'm not sure about Mass Effect 3, but right now she's a Sentinel, and I'm going to be a Sentinel in Mass Effect 2. I have a Soldier Insanity playthrough. I have 2 Adept Insanity playthroughs, and I have a Engineer Insanity playthrough up on YouTube. But I haven't done a Sentinel playthrough on for YouTube. I did do an Insanity playthrough on my own, but I thought I'd do an Insanity playthrough and record it and post it on YouTube so that I'd have that class as well. So that's what she's going to be, is a Sentinel. But as far as this Mass Effect 1 is concerned, the only side missions we're really going to do are ones that contribute to the story. Like I said, I'm not terribly interested in the gameplay here. I don't find it terribly interesting. When we get up to Mass Effect 2, I find it much more interesting. We'll up the difficulty level to Insanity. Here, I'm going to play on Casual. So let's take a look. Yeah, I'm going to play on Casual. And in fact, I'm going to do something that hopefully will be somewhat amusing. And that is, I'm actually going to just kind of run past most combat. It's like, hell with this, let's just move on. And we'll focus in on the story. Just run past the enemies, you know, whatever. But as I didn't start out thinking that way. So I actually, when I actually chose to give her a skill here in assault rifles, like I was actually going to be using this stuff. So I didn't think and the reason we're doing this as a New Game Plus, originally, since I didn't know that I would be doing this on Casual, I only decided that later on. If you're going to play at a higher level difficulty, you don't want to spend a whole lot of points in this stuff. You spend enough to get up to the Persuade levels you need, and it makes sense from an economic point of view to only invest in one of these, Charm or Intimidate. So you can spend those other points on other skills here that are more vital to you staying alive. But in every playthrough you can earn up to 4 free Charm and 4 free Intimidate points. So you don't have to actually spend any points yourself. You can spend them on this other stuff up here rather than on these speech skills by earning free points. So I've actually pushed Shepard through this thing 3 times. That's because I wasn't sure if I had enough Intimidate points. And so I wanted to get a few extra Intimidate points. So now you can see we're up to like 10 Charm and 10 Intimidate points. And so in the first playthrough, I think I earned 3 Intimidate and 4 Charm. In the next playthrough, I earned 4 Charm and 4 Intimidate. And then in the last playthrough, I earned 3 Intimidate and 3 Charm points, bringing us up to 12 in both. And I earned those for free, because basically you earn a free Charm point every time when you fill up 10% of your Paragon meter. You earn a free Intimidate point when you fill up 10% of your Renegade meter. You earn another free Charm point when you fill up 25% of your Paragon meter. And you earn another Intimidate point when you fill up 25% of your your Renegade meter. And then finally, I believe it's 75%, maybe 80%, maybe as high as 90, I'm not sure. But once you get up very high in your Paragon meter, you'll earn another Charm point. And when you get very high in your Renegade meter, you'll earn another Intimidate point. And then when you're granted Spectre status, you're also granted both a free Charm and a free Intimidate point. So you can earn up to 4 free Charm and 4 free Intimidate points per turn. And the reason I want to do that, why I want to max out both of these, is very key to my role-playing. This is not a Renegade Shepard. This is not a Paragon Shepard, obviously. She's picked a Ruthless background. But it's not a Renegade Shepard either. This is a Shepard with a certain background, a certain outlook, and maybe at certain points it will require Shepard to use an Intimidate speech option, or it might require to stay within the role of Shepard to use a Charm Intimidate option. Charm Persuade option. So that's why I like filling these out, is so that my role playing is not restricted to either all Paragon or all Renegade. For me, that's not the way I want to role play. The way I want to role play is say, look, this is who Shepard is. She's a colonist. Family was killed when she was 16 by these Batarian slavers. She now hates Batarians. She doesn't trust aliens necessarily, but she doesn't really see Asari as aliens. And she's very mission focused, and she's not going to have a problem with working with Cerberus. That's who she is, and maybe that will be, sometimes she'll go Paragon, maybe sometimes she'll go Intimidate, and other times she may go more neutral. But it depends on their background, not on where things are positioned on the dialogue wheel. And then another thing that doing New Game Plus does for us, besides earning all of those free Charm and Intimidate points, is I don't have to worry about inventory management. I've got all the inventory I need. You can see all this. I got all the Spectre weapons here to hand out to my crew. And I got all this top of the line armor, except for one thing. I'm missing a Colossus armor for Turians. I don't have Turian Colossus armor, but other than that, I got all top of the line stuff here to hand out to my crew, so that I never have to go open up any crates. Don't have to do any of that. You can see we're almost at 10 million credits, or how many credits is that? Is it 100 million credits? Whatever. We're almost maxed out on credits. We're maxed out on Omnigel. I don't have to worry about opening crates or any of that kind of things. We can just focus in on the story, which is actually what even the combat's going to be like, just run past the enemies, and don't worry about them, and just move right on to the story. In Mass Effect 2, I guarantee we'll bump it up to insanity, and so we'll definitely have to worry a lot more about gameplay in Mass Effect 2, which I really like the gameplay in Mass Effect 2 and 3, but not so much in Mass Effect 1. So here we're just going to do the story stuff, and then not even all the story stuff. We're pretty much not going to do most side missions. The only real side mission that really solidly fits in here is the Geth presence in the Armstrong cluster, because if you, on either Pharos or on Vermeer, you can hack into a Geth terminal that will tell you what the Geth are up to, that they're going to invade that cluster. And that seems like a good lead as to, look, if we're tracking down leads on where the Geth are going to be in order to find Saren and the conduit, well, then going out to the Armstrong cluster makes sense, because we know, having hacked into those terminals, that the Geth are out there. So that fits in, but most of the other stuff is kind of like it doesn't really fit in with the story, and we're just going to skip it and focus in on the story stuff. I'm not going to do every single investigate option. If you want to hear more investigate stuff, let me know, and I'll do that. But I think a lot of the investigates I may skip. Some of them are redundant. Some of them don't really. Some of them make Shepard look stupid, quite frankly. Tell me about the Protheans. It's like, Shepard, didn't you go to school? Seriously? Like when we talked to Anderson back there in the comm room, I'm not going to ask about the Protheans. It makes Shepard look dumb. And I'm not going to ask Liara about, can Asari reproduce with each other? I mean, that really makes Shepard look stupid. So I'm going to skip some of that stuff, but I do want to catch a bunch of dialogue here, but not. I don't want to make it exhaustive. There's no reason to be exhaustive, I don't think. As far as video length, even though this video is already gone on, it's going on almost 40 minutes of me talking, and I'm sorry about that, but I really wanted to establish who this Shepard is, this being my canon Shepard. That's who I think makes the best Shepard, considering all of the plot points in the story and what Shepard has to do, and what Shepard goes through. I did want to spend some time explaining that. But in general, I think the best length for videos is about 20 minutes, because I think that's a good watching time. It's not too long. You don't have to pause the video and come back to it later. That you can sit down and just watch an episode, and it'll be over. And then if you have time, you can move on to the next episode. If not, you can come back later. So I'm thinking 20 minutes is good, but if you have some other idea on a good episode length, let me know. I'm fairly good about posting these, so I don't think an hour episode is really called for, because you should probably, by the time you get around to watching this, I should probably have 2 or 3 episodes up anyway, so that you might be watching for 40 or minutes or an hour. Generally, that's the way it has worked, although my posting pace has gotten slower lately because of my job. But let me know if you have any thoughts, any other thoughts as well on stuff you'd like to see, or suggestions on how the story might best play out. But at any rate, here we are. I should say one other thing about Carmen here. I wanted to go for a more African look here, but I blew it on the nose. Her nose is too hooked, and it's not wide, and the nostrils are not wide enough. And I think when I get to Mass Effect 2, I'm just gonna remake her face altogether. I wish game designers would actually let you remake your face mid-game. They finally did that in Skyrim with one of the DLC. I think it was the one with vampires. I can't even remember what that one was called. I don't remember what that DLC was called, but they let you remake your face. And I don't understand why BioWare can't do that. They didn't do that in any of the Dragon Ages, and they didn't do it in any of the Mass Effects. It's like, just let us remake the face if it comes out wrong. I mean, I don't want to live with this face, and I don't want to have to restart all the way from the beginning if I become dissatisfied with the face. I just want to remake it. Anyway, I think I will remake her face when I get to Mass Effect 2. But considering the amount of work it took me to get to here, 3 playthroughs, going as fast as I could, and it was still, I don't know, I think it takes like 6-7 hours to get through if you're just doing the story stuff and nothing else, and not even really talking to anybody, just running from place to place. It's still take you about, I don't know, 7 hours, I think. So I'm just gonna live with it. You're gonna have to live with it too. This is Carmen Shepard, Colonist Ruthless, and we'll be back in the next episode where we can actually start talking to people and moving the story forward. But until then, have a nice day. If you have any ideas, comments, let me know. Have a nice day.